think, again, as I said, this platform is there just to educate and not just whinge, but to make sure that we are bringing different voices together. So Max Green, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you again, Vanessa, for having me. Again, I want to say thank you as well. I know obviously how hard that you work, and you know, Paul as well. I know working with you, I think, gosh, probably me and Vanessa originally met at I was at Houses of Parliament, and I got heckled by somebody, and Vanessa was the first one to come in and stand up for me, and that's kind of how me and Vanessa really met. So I'm always grateful for Vanessa and the work that she does. But I mean, I'm an ambassador for the National Autism Society. I also do acting and YouTube. On my YouTube, I talk about autism a lot. And through the years, I've found it, I suppose, quite hard growing up with autism and going out into normal day life. Even though I'd say some of the things that I've always wanted to do, I've accomplished. Like, you know, I became an actor, went on Holby City and Doctors and things like that. It was still incredibly hard, I found, to get to those points with autism. And what I found with COVID is I think, as Paul said earlier, you know, everything has changed. You know, everything, the opportunity for everything, like the public speaking that I normally do, the acting, or just the simple routine going to work, all of it has changed. That's the biggest thing that I've found. We know people with autism are more likely to feel lonely, and more likely to have suicidal thoughts. So all of that, you know, coming in mind when a pandemic is going on, just heightens everything. I think the thing that's made me more angry through COVID is, I think the only time I saw autism trending was when Dominic Cummings done his Around the World in 80 Days trip. And that was the only time I saw autism trending. And it was obviously because he then said that he'd done the journey because of his son, he had autism, and along that lines. And it just really angered me, because some of the statistics around it, I mean, even around the deaths with people with autism, for instance, you know, the providers of the Care Quality Commission reported there was 386 deaths between April and May, and that's 134% jump on the 165 people in 2019. Watchdog also said there was 106 deaths recorded in mental health hospitals in March and May, compared with 51 over the same period in 2019. But also there was 13,600 deaths for which no answer was given when asked if they had mental health condition, learning disability, or autism. And I just feel that we've been completely forgotten about through the pandemic. You know, the changes, things like face masks coming in, they have sent out a list of people that are exempt, but I find it very hard to find the one that says autism, and you really need to pinpoint that one. I don't even think on the Gov website it says specifically autism. There's nothing to show that, you know, you've got autism. So even if you walk into a shop and say you don't wear a face mask because the sensory overload or the texture of the mask, there's no way that you can prove that you've got autism. You know, I know that they're starting to hand out things like cards and things like that, which is really helpful. But when I walked into a shop the other day without a mask, because I find it quite uncomfortable as well, you know, I just feel an automatic, you know, sense of judgment by people, because they don't see, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, they see you in a wheelchair. If you've got a limp, you've got, you know, all of those things. But autism, because it's invisible, people automatically presume the worst and just judge you straight away. That and that's, I think, again, what Vanessa said earlier, is being judged is the biggest thing. But when I see, you know, I just feel that government haven't really, one, they haven't done a great job looking after people in general, but when it comes to autism and any condition, I think they've handled it very badly. You know, the employment rate for people with autism before the pandemic was only 16%. So only 16% of people were in full-time work with autism. That number now, with people being furloughed and people being made redundant, is probably only going to go down now. You know, that percentage is not going to go high anytime soon, because, quite frankly, the government didn't even take track of that number. It was the National Autistic Society that did. And they didn't seem to really care about that number anyway. It took them a good 2 years for them to finally say that they would, you know, track the number. And obviously that was November last year, and this has all happened. So it wouldn't surprise me if, one, they lose track of that number anyway. And two, it wouldn't surprise me if they even know the number of the amount of people that have been neglected through the pandemic with autism and with any conditions, really. So, and I think, if anything, you know, the numbers are going to continue to go. You know, for instance, with diagnosis, you know, the average age is 4. I can't see that going up now. You know, I can't see that improving anytime soon because of the pandemic. I can't see any way. If we couldn't get it right before the pandemic, I can't see how we're going to get it right after. You know, and they just seem to made more of a mess of it than what I ever thought that they were going to do. So yeah, I mean, I want to obviously take questions as well, and I don't want to just rant. So anyone that's got some questions, I'm happy to ask as well. Really, I'm happy to answer really as well.
Is there anybody who'd like to ask Max a question? Anybody want to ask Max? Max, I know there's a question that last year, me, you, Jesse, and Paul did social media influences. Something right now is where on one side we've been told, you know, our children shouldn't be doing too much on social media, but all of a sudden now that is what's become digital connections around the world. So from your perspective, what advice can you give to parents who are trying to stop their children getting online and being on social media?
Well, my experience is the more you try and stop something, the more something becomes appealing. It's almost like a kid in a shop, you know, don't touch that. And what do? They end up touching it because someone's told them not to. So I would suggest the best way to approach it is necessarily not just saying outright you can't have it, but it's all about monitoring it is the best way, I find. And that's why I don't really agree with things like Snapchat. I know when we had the discussion at County Lines with Jesse as well, you know, social media was brought up a lot, and even opened my eyes of how people and parents will tag their children in photos on their first day of school. And now, you know, a potential predator out there will now know what school your child goes to, and you know, they've got all that information. And you never think of it like that. You know, you never think, oh, someone who I've never met is looking at my content online, but it is the reality of the situation. So monitoring, I wouldn't advise parents to let their children use Snapchat. I mean, the age of Snapchat is 13, and I just think the purpose of a messaging app which deletes your message as soon as you've sent it is just completely stupid. and just something a 13-year-old should not be on. At least with Facebook and things, you can monitor, you can change the setting. If someone is messaging your child and you think, who is that? Why are they messaging them? You've got the message there, you can see it. Snapchat, if they say, and another thing as well that I learned from Jessie is don't, if you've got things like Snapchat, which again, I don't think you should have at 13, but a lot of people will find it on your Facebook bio. So say a predator looks at your Facebook profile, sees that you've got Snapchat, he can then add you on Snapchat. All the messages are then deleted. They've got no record of this person contacting you. The only people that do is Snapchat, and by the time that person's contacted you, sadly, it's probably too late. So I would say, monitor everything that you can online. Make sure that you put in the settings that are there for you to do that. And if you feel that they're too young to use it as well, I think you need to stick with your gut. I mean, I think I started Facebook when I was in year 7, which relatively is still quite young, but I remember, my mum used to really kind of be in that situation where it'd be like, okay, I remember someone messaged me and I didn't know who they were, and apparently this person met me in Spain and we played on the GameCube, and I said to my mum, have I ever gone to Spain? And mum went, no, you haven't. Deleted. Bye. So it's about, I suppose, letting your children know that you have, if you're going to use it and something happens like that, please let me know. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to judge. Have that open communication and that conversation, and put as many settings as you can as possible to make sure that things like that just don't happen. And us as parents as well, do the responsible thing, like as Jessie's situation. If you're gonna post a photo of your kid on their first day at school, make sure the uniform's covered up, make sure you're not tagging their location, make sure that you do it. It's also the responsibility of the parents to make sure we protect the children, and also the responsibility of the children to protect themselves. So that's key for me. If you think they're too young to use it, then I wouldn't dismiss it, because more you dismiss it, more they want to use it. So set up a little group of friends on there. You make sure that you monitor it to the best of your ability, and don't take it lightly. Don't just think, oh, it's just them on Xbox. There was a case where a kid met someone on Xbox, and this guy promised that he would make him owner of a company, and then he went round this person's house, and then he unfortunately died. And it was really sad. So it's just situations like that. Even things like Xbox, which you think a gaming console. No, gaming consoles aren't just gaming consoles anymore. They're home entertainment systems with social media and Twitter and Facebook, and it's easy to access it on there as well. Just like a phone. A phone's not a phone anymore. It's turned into a mini entertainment system in your pocket. So, and I'll just answer one more question as well that I've seen in the comments.
Vanita wants to ask a question. I don't know if she wants to speak, but I can actually put her in so she can actually ask the question.
Okay.
Hello, hiya, how you doing? Hello.
Hi there.
Hello. Just thinking about on a practical level, I was in Marks and Spencer's and I was stressing out at checking out, because we haven't used machines and shops for ages, have we? And there was a mum next to me with a kid like 11, 12, and they were putting socks through and they had a problem. And the kid was wearing a lanyard, he was wearing the sunflower lanyard. The woman in M&S had no idea what it was, and I said, "Oh, can I get one at Marks and Spencer's handing out those invisible disability lanyards, to sort of say to her, can you pay attention, please?"
Yeah.
So I just wondered on a practical level, this thing about not moaning and looking for solutions, if there's something that we can put together, like a little 5-point thing or a different lanyard or a different, like the little bits of ribbon or whatever that works for people.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think,
and I was also looking. I found the this person is autistic PDF, the card of the Autistic Society that you can print out now. So just a little five pointer to say, like, this person's autistic. What you can do to help to be a friend is it may take them a moment to say what they want. They might need to repeat it a couple of times. So you can just practice patience so that the person who's it's not all on that person, but we're developing those communication lines to say this is what you can do to interact and be helpful.
no, I completely agree, and I think those things are so helpful, and it's just unfortunately what gets me is they're just not advertised or promoted as well as they should be. It's a bit
Mm.
like access to work. It's like it's such a good scheme if you use it. If you're ever in employment and you need resources or anything like that, there's a thing called access to work, and
They've just rejected me again.
really
Yeah.
it's mad, and this is the side of access to work I don't hear about. I think oh it's such a great scheme, but at the same time if people are getting rejected from it, it's ridiculous. People shouldn't be rejected because of it. Um, but that's another thing that I always have with government is, if you cut people's, for instance, benefits and then you reject them from access to work and all of this stuff, how do you even expect somebody with a condition like autism to survive in the world? If you just keep cutting every resource, it is ridiculous. I'm sorry to hear that as well.
I think what you're doing is the right way forward, is this peer-to-peer empowerment thing where lots of like Paul, like Vanessa, all these people, everyone that's got a little bit of a knowledge, we come together and we just do peer-to-peer support, and that's the way forward.
I just wish government people would look at things like this and go, oh, might be worth me sparing a few minutes or hours or whatever to learn about this. And I think if more MPs and more people in power did that, then you'd hear more about the Linards and the cards and all of that stuff. But because they don't, and I think they're all wrapped in their own world and their own bubble, tinted glasses, I like to call it. They see life through a different vision than what we do. That they seem to forget about it, really. And it's sad because ultimately they're just letting down, one day they're going to have kids who might have autism and they might have, conditions, and the only people they've let down is potentially future generations. So it's just sad, really.